I call the Minister. Jess Phillips.
I thank you, Ms Hobhouse. It is a pleasure to serve under your chairship. So first of all, I must start by thanking my honourable friend, the member for Edinburgh North and Leith, for securing the debate. The depth of her knowledge and passion on this issue was obvious as she spoke. The men she spoke of in her opening remarks and the reviews that she read out, of which she could have read out considerably worse, so maybe the House appreciates the editing, are utterly despicable. These men disgust me in their attitude towards women generally, but also the suggestion that they should be able to pay for somebody's horror and then give them a bad review is something that I think should not sit well with anyone. Like her, I have a long-standing interest in these issues. I have worked for many years with women trafficked for sex, women sold into sexual slavery from childhood, and women forced into sexual exploitation through, essentially through their circumstances. And still today, I meet very, very regularly. In fact, met some women in this situation or who had historically been in this situation just last week. I think that we would all want to be driven by their voices. I am deeply grateful for everyone who continues to advocate for action to tackle demand for prostitution and sex trafficking, and for better support for victims and survivors to recover. The idea that people should be criminalised for this is something that I think worries us all. Before I come on to respond to some of the specific points, it's worth outlining that sexual exploitation can take different forms. The trafficking of individuals for sexual exploitation is modern slavery. The demand for sexual services is undoubtedly driving this horrific crime, and the profit that criminals are making from this exploitation makes it even more sickening. For too long, women and vulnerable people have been trapped within sexual exploitation under the guise of prostitution. The daily abuse that they suffer is truly horrific, and my honourable friend spoke to some of that. And that people are profiting from this exploitation is even more sickening. Any individual who wants to leave prostitution or who has been sexually exploited must be given the opportunities to find routes out and to recover. And let's be clear about the scale of this problem. The nature of it makes it difficult to accurately estimate the numbers, but this is something that we have looked at. Research commissioned by the Home Office and conducted by the University of Bristol found it is not possible to produce a single prevalence estimate for prostitution. However, it is assessed a number of existing estimates made over the last 25 years, which range from 35,882 to 104,964 people. We know that potential victims of trafficking for sexual exploitation make up a large proportion of referrals to the National Referral Mechanism, the framework for identifying and referring potential victims of modern slavery to appropriate support. The most recent statistics show that in 2024, sexual exploitation, either partly or wholly, accounted for 3,266 or 17% of all referrals. Of those who are sexually exploited, the majority were female at 79%. But prosecutions under the Modern Slavery Act 2015 do not reflect this. I am determined to see more trafficking offenders brought to justice. In my Modern Slavery Action Plan, I have set out actions we will take together with criminal justice system partners to improve criminal justice outcomes for all modern slavery offences, including the trafficking of individuals for sexual exploitation. Prostitution offences and modern slavery are complex and multifaceted crimes, often linked to other offending, and people are often victims of multiple elements. Because of this, we have a multifaceted approach, including the Violence Against Women and Girls strategy with a commitment to halve violence against women and girls crimes in a decade, and our modern slavery action plan, and we will continue to tackle this threat from all angles. But it is clear much more must be done. We must go further to prevent sexual exploitation by supporting law enforcement to identify and prosecute exploiters and disrupting the sexual exploitation that is facilitated by, as has been mentioned, online platforms. More broadly, through the Safer Streets, we have committed to halving violence against women and girls in a decade, and that effort will be underpinned by the new VORG strategy to be published this year. I don't want to step on the toes of it, as it has not been published yet, and say what will be in it. Also, I'd probably be fired if I did. I don't think I would, actually. For the first time, the inclusion of adult sexual exploitation and the proper understanding of it, I think it's fair to say, will be reflected. As we develop the new strategy and work to tackle modern slavery, we are considering how to tackle the issues raised today and to ensure that victims and survivors are supported to recover. As of all of us in this room will, I suspect, be aware of the ongoing debates regarding the different legislative approaches that have been mentioned, and I look forward to further conversations. I have to say, I have already spoken to her many times about it, with my honourable friend, the member for Gower, when the Crime and Policing Bill reaches report stage next week. Anyone who has worked with me on issues like this will know that my primary focus is on outcomes that improve lives. I want to stress this really, really clearly. Legislation alone does nothing. It is illegal to commit domestic abuse. Welcome to the world. 25% of all referrals to the National Referral Mechanism come from children being enforced into slavery for drug trafficking. Drugs are illegal. So the idea that we can write something into legislation that will in and of itself simply solve this problem overnight is absolutely for the birds. The illegality of drugs has not stopped the trafficking of children for drugs in our country. And so we have to look at both legislative models and then what will actually work. I am only interested in actual outcomes. And as the Minister, I will use every lever available to me to clamp down on sexual exploitation. And the government's position will be informed by the views of victims and survivors, the voluntary and community sector who work directly with those victims and survivors, the police and others. So I want to raise the specific point in the time that I have left on the specifics that were raised around adult service websites. And as members are aware, the online space is a significant enabler for sexual exploitation, and our response needs to reflect this. Online platforms must be responsible and held accountable for the content on their sites, including taking proactive steps to prevent their sites being used by criminals. We are implementing the Online Safety Act, which sets out priority offences, including sexual exploitation and human trafficking offences. Online platforms now have a duty to assess the risk of illegal harms on their services, and as of the 17th of March, online platforms need to take safety measures to protect users from illegal content, such as that set out in Ofcom's codes of practice, or face significant penalties. And we are going further. Schedule 13 of the Crime and Policing Bill will equip law enforcement with new tools to disrupt sexual exploitation that is facilitated through these online platforms. They will be able to apply to the courts for an order to suspend the IP and domain names for the specified period up to 12 months when they are being used for serious crime, including the offences related to sexual exploitation. It won't take us very long to find one that is. And so, whilst we are in the foothills of these changes in legislation and the legislation rolling out, I look forward to some clear action being taken. The government is further supporting law enforcement to tackle the drivers of trafficking and sexual exploitation through operational activity aimed at tackling modern slavery threats and targeting prolific perpetrators. The government will continue to keep policies to tackle online enablers of sexual exploitation under review, and we want to ensure that online companies fulfil their duty to eradicate exploitation from their sites, and will take further action to achieve this if necessary. So I suppose what I would say from this dispatch box is that the sites, which we could all we all who've worked in this know what they are. We are coming for you, and the law is also not on your side. And so clean them up, or further regulation will have to come. We cannot have sites where people can buy and sell human beings. I will wrap up on this particular point. But say I thank the honourable member, and I look forward to the debates that we have as the legislation passes through.